Phenomenology Club's Psychic Prayer Hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Psychic prayer. We're gonna pray for you psychically. Today we are taking callers. If you phone into the phone number listed in the title description, I'll talk to you. Welcome. Blessings, blessings. How are you guys doing? It's been 5 days since my last upload. Again, trying to keep with my word and upload consistently, semi-consistently, whatever. And I was like, what the fuck should I talk about today? Because I am just going through the list of topics. I saw last time someone asked me to talk about manifesting, which is kind of interesting. It's definitely a topic that's relevant to phenomenology and Phenomenology Club. For those of you who've seen my Against Spirituality upload or followed me or follow me on Twitter back when I was actually tweeting, you probably already know that I am incredibly skeptical when it comes to a lot of these topics having to deal with spiritualism, spooky shit, Thelema, the DMT elves, manifesting, witches, astrology, all of these things. I am incredibly cynical. At the same time, I myself have what some people might call a sort of peculiar relationship to such concepts, because, you know, if you've seen the Against Spirituality video, the one on this channel, YouTube channel, Phenomenology Club, then you know that even though I am incredibly cynical when it comes to all of these topics, I believe that there is such a thing as what you could call altered states. And these things are hypothetically accessible and perhaps even interesting, perhaps even useful. But what I am interested in is what these things actually, quote unquote, are. Because if they're anything, I know for certain, not for certain actually, because I don't know anything for certain, right? If I know anything, I know confidently, not for certain, that if there is such a thing as accessing altered states, as accessing any of these tools, quote unquote, of spirituality, they are not what they present to us as. I don't believe that there are ghosts in the sense that there are disembodied consciousnesses floating around, that there are demons, that there are angels, that I can open up my fucking butthole chakra, whatever the fuck. But that is not to say that all of what these things point to, that there is nothing there. So I have some ideas here, and like I said, I don't know if anyone will actually call. I don't know if my listenership is large enough for that. But I do have a phone number here. If any of you have any specific topics that you would like to call in and discuss, let's fucking do it. So I guess I'll say you can call it at any time. I don't know. I've never done this before. I'm not sure exactly how I should do it. I think maybe what I should start doing is just talking my bullshit and seeing maybe if it inspires anyone. And if you want to call in and talk some shit, then let's fucking talk about it. I don't know. Shit, I'm sitting here drinking coffee. It's a lovely Sunday afternoon. It's kind of rainy, kind of spooky. Maybe the perfect backdrop to have this kind of a discussion. And I'll just sit here and I'll wait and I'll talk my shit and see if anyone calls in and wants to talk about that spooky shit. So, as you all know, this is Phenomenology Club. And I don't know how many of you have read Phenomenology, specifically the writings of Edmund Husserl, but, you know, as somebody who... Oh, someone's calling already. Oh my god, I'm scared. Let's go. Hello, you're on the air. Oh, wait, no,
Call
you're not.
from
Dylan.
Dylan!
to accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Dylan, you are live on Phenomenology Club Psychic Prayer Hotline. What the fuck you gotta say?
Sup, Bethany? Dog, I don't really get into phenomenology a lot, but I just wanted to drop in and say, hey, what's up, dude? We
Hey.
miss you on Twitter. And yeah, I want you to keep doing cool shit and put out some more music. We miss you and we love you.
Well, thanks. We're supposed to be talking about spirituality. Do you have any spirituality aligned topics to talk about? I will keep doing stuff, by the way. I'm always doing stuff, but gotta do it on your own
Oh, that's great to
timeline.
hear, man. Yeah, I mean, like, dog, I don't really know much about spirituality. Like, I don't really believe in anything in particular, but my dad has a lot of ghost stories from the third world. We're from Honduras, and like when he
Mm.
speaks about them, he has such intensity with them that like I look him in the eyes and I know for a minute that he's not like making this shit up, you know. But I don't know. I've never had a supernatural experience myself, but like I still feel like I don't know enough to just like toss it away, you know.
So, what do you think when your dad tells you these stories? Do you feel personally convinced by them?
I do, yeah. I feel like I don't know, like
Can you tell
I'm
us
not.
one or no? Is that too personal?
Yeah, sure thing.
Tell us one.
So he used to be a truck driver, and he would Honduras is this like super mountainous area, and so he would drive trucks like up and down these mountains all day since he was like 9 years old, right?
Mm.
Um, and so one day it's him, one of my uncles, and then one of my uncle's sons, and they're driving, and then like all three of them are like very very tired. They've been working like 16 days, whatever, or 16 hours a day, whatever. But my dad's driving, and he's like starting to feel himself go to sleep and whatever. But then he looked to the side of his car, like hanging from the big rear view mirror on the side of the truck was this like ghostly skeletal woman with like a face that was like half rotting away, and she like opened her mouth and screamed at him, and he like swerved the truck. Um, and my uncle wakes up right next to him, and he's like starting freaking out because he sees it too. Um, and they were like
Really?
freaking out. They almost crashed the fucking truck off this like huge mountain there. Um, and yeah, and he like tells it to me again sometimes, and like I still see that like intensity in his eyes. Like I know that he's not making this shit up, you know. So
So, what do you make of
yeah,
that?
so I've never. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's the thing. Like I trust my dad enough that like I find myself not questioning these stories a lot, but also I've had so few encounters with the supernatural and the ephemeral that like I don't have enough personal experience to be able to like, quantify it meaningfully.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that that's an interesting idea. Like you hear people recount these stories and you feel like, okay, I know, well, I don't know, but it seems like you're not lying to me. You genuinely believe you had this experience and you probably did experience what you're recounting to me. But does that mean that I should then trust your translation of this experience? Like, just because you saw a ghost, does that mean that ghosts are real? That's quite a jump. So it's like, shit, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
believe you saw something, but what am I supposed to make with this? I think a lot of people try and kind of accept these stories at face value and then are like, okay, ghosts are real. Like, that's quite a jump. I can believe that your story is real, that you really experienced this, but I'm not going to just jump and say, okay, skeleton ghosts from Honduras are real. I don't know. But shit.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
All
sharing
right,
that
Bethany, I
story
gotta
with
hop off,
us.
but
Thank you.
it was it was great talking to you, man. I'll keep in touch.
You too. I'll be back. Don't worry. I'm not dead.
All
Thanks for
right.
calling.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Interesting. Okay, cool. We've had our first caller talking about ghosts. Ghosts. What do you guys think about ghosts? You believe in ghosts? What do you think? Like I just said, I think that this is the one of the primary reasons that people believe in ghosts because of all of these first-hand accounts that people have of ghost stories that are pretty convincing, especially when they're coming from people like our dad. Oh, we got another caller.
Call
Yes,
from
allow my mic.
Lila.
Lila,
To accept.
I accept. Hello, Lila.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the
Um,
Phenomenology Club's Psychic Prayer Hotline. Speak to
wow, I
us.
feel so welcome.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
I don't know why I'm like super nervous, but I've
Don't
been
be
thinking
nervous.
about like manifesting in connection with like the placebo effect.
Okay. What are your thoughts there?
I feel like manifesting will never work for me because I don't believe that it will work, because I have this like inner skepticism. But my boyfriend recently picked up the book The Secret and I don't think he had ever heard of it before, so he didn't know that it was kind of like a meme, but it seems to be working for him pretty well because he didn't have sort of this presupposed skepticism towards it.
Okay.
But I feel like all the things like that and like religions have never worked for me personally because I just can't believe in it as much as I want to. But they seem to work really, really well for other people who are able to have a really like strong belief.
Yeah, what you're saying, I mean, this is really interesting, and this is part of why I believe that, if there's anything to these ideas about spirituality, say that there is something to the idea that, like, I could will something into being. I don't know, that's like the vaguest example of whatever spiritual idea. But, like, why would it be that it has to be associated with a specific school or of spirituality or ritual or something? Because it stands to reason that if these concepts are applicable, if a thing like the placebo effect works, from our anecdotal observations, it seems like, okay, maybe you have to genuinely believe it will work, and that's the mechanism of action. But, like, is that true? Maybe there's something more there. Maybe even people like us who are skeptical, maybe we also can, like, harness this kind of a thing. But if we're only going to approach these kinds of concepts from, like, specific schools of spirituality or The Secret or yoga or whatever thing that we don't believe in and we can't access, then it's like, aren't we just making more work for ourselves? Like, I want to understand why certain things seem like maybe they do work for certain people when they genuinely believe. What is that, I'm not going to say that I understand that mechanism, but yeah, I agree with you. There's definitely something compelling to this idea. Things like the placebo effect. If you believe that you'll be cured from cancer or something, is it possible that your body can actually like change itself and overcome cancer or something like this,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Like the science behind the placebo effect is so fascinating because, I don't know if it would work for cancer, but for a lot of other things, it really is. Like, if you truly believe that you're going to get well, then you will. And I feel like when it comes to things like manifesting, which is like so many of my friends genuinely believe in it, and I try really hard to be open-minded, and I think, I don't want to roll my eyes at anyone, but a lot of the manifesting stuff that's like going around on social media right now is like how to manifest yourself to become prettier or like to lose weight.
Shut
or like
up.
Yeah, and like I feel like manifesting works if you're trying to change your own behavior, because then it's kind of the same thing as like visualizing positive changes or positive thinking or whatever. So I think it really can have great effects when people are trying to use it to like make positive changes for themselves. But I feel like a lot of people get more focused on like the magical aspect of wanting to just will things in their life to change.
Right. And it's so strange, too, because at the same time, it seems like people are also gravitating to this kind of a thing because they feel like there's some sort of a scientific basis behind it. Because they'll also mention things like the placebo effect. And I've noticed, too, on, like, binaural beats YouTube, there's, like, subliminal affirmation, like, make your butt bigger, like, and these are the kinds of ideas they seem to be tapping into. It's this strange thing where it's like, you're choosing what type of spirituality you're gravitating to because you feel as if it's like predicated on some sort of baseline natural science. It's like totally contradictory. It's like, are you into this thing because it's magical or it's scientific? Like, what do you think it is? It's like, It doesn't really make sense. I feel like this is a lot of people's interest in astrology too. It's like we're into astrology because it's based on science, and then scientists and real astronomers are like, yeah, but the science it's based on is actually not astronomically consistent. Like, that's why it's not scientific. Astrology people think like, oh, you're telling me like it's unscientific because I'm trying to divine information from the stars. Like, no, that can't be proven or disproven. What's disprovable is your literal star charts. They're not based on anything that's astronomically consistent. You're using like astronomy that doesn't even exist. Like, that's the fucking problem, So yeah. It's really weird. And the placebo effect, I agree, it's definitely fascinating. I was reading about it not long ago, and I forget exactly what I found, but I feel like I found that it wasn't quite as provable as I had previously thought that it was. I need to revisit that again. But I definitely think that there have been plenty of examples of it being successful, or at least like worth considering statistically.
Yeah.
And even in, randomized trials and shit, they're always using placebo. It's necessary anyway for trials and shit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna look more into that. But thank you. These are very insightful comments. Thanks for calling, and I wish you well. Bless you. Bless you.
You.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Good comments. Good comments. Speaking of manifesting, it's interesting because I feel like, let me try to think of what I was just going to say. I've got like anxiety of the phone ringing now again. It's like, what did Kierkegaard say? Anxiety is like hanging on the edge of anticipation or something. Oh, see? Oh, I'm scared. All right, after this call, I'll try to go into my idea that I was going to say about manifesting. Call from who? Hello?
Yo, what's up? Oh, yeah,
Bless you, brother.
Yo, bless you too. I don't say bless, but I say bless.
Oh.
Yeah, they're two different definitions.
Okay.
Yeah, it's deep like that. Alright. So, what I'm gonna say,
Let's
a
go.
little pretentious probably, but, I think, like, manifesting and all that stuff is kind of like misinterpretation of like how people perceive things.
Okay.
I think it's like a statistical kind of like statistical competition between like events that tend to happen like the next second. And I guess the way I would define that is like the human mind is like mostly quantitative and qualitative, and like I guess this idea comes from information theory, and damn, I kind of forgot what I was gonna say. But I think that these things kind of happen. Nah, I kind of went blank. My bad. Give me a second. What were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, your comment has me thinking in a few different directions, I think it's interesting, and this is what I was going to say after I took the last call. I just kind of remembered. It's interesting because people talk about this idea of manifesting as if it needs to be, like, implicitly spiritual or something, but it's like, what exactly are the concepts at play here? A thing like visualization and then manifestation, it's like, don't I visualize what I'm going to get at the grocery store before I go to the grocery store and purchase these things? And the more I make a list, the more I think about it in my head. Okay, I'm going to start from the far left aisle and work my way to the right. The more I visualize this process, how it'll all play out, I feel like the more successful of a visit I have to the grocery store. So, like, is this manifesting? I feel like when people talk about manifesting things into reality, they're sort of using the same exact kind of a concept, but for some reason, some inexplicable reason, all of a sudden now it's spiritual. It's like, well, why, you know? If I'm constantly visualizing myself like completing these various tasks, like going applying for these jobs, working my way up to this career trajectory, because that's what a lot of people are talking about. I feel like when they talk about manifesting, I don't know about this like changing your fucking eye color bullshit, which of course I think is bullshit. All of this stuff on like sublimation, affirmation, binaural beats, YouTube and shit, you know. I feel like generally what people are describing as manifestation is like a pretty practical concept, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, there's just like this. I think there are occasionally like coincidences that kind of tend to be unexplainable, but that's more like, even then, I would just narrow it down to like the things that the energy that you put out is like more of a reflection of the kind of work that you do, and that's kind of like what energy is. Energy is kind of like work, I think, in physics. So like, of course, like if you work hard enough in like in a certain career path, eventually you'll like kind of have access to like certain doors that will like lead you to a plethora of other options, and depending on like the things that you continue to put your energy towards, like things may or may not work in your favor. And also, when I said it was like a statistical competition, it's also like just the kind of things that ruminate in your mind.
What do you mean by statistical competition?
Because like, let's say you're going to like Safeway and you're planning on getting some celery, but there's like, and I'm going to Safeway and I'm planning on getting some celery.
Okay.
And coincidentally, we like arrive at Safeway at the same time. So like, damn, it kind of, so I guess statistical competition. All right. So yeah, so like basically, what I mean is like, we're both two people putting out energy, I guess. That's the lingo they use for manifesting, right? We're putting out energy.
I'm not
to get
overly
celery.
familiar with the language of manifesting, but sure.
I mean, it's also the energy. I mean, that's also the lingo in physics. So.
Yeah, but I don't think physicists are being like, so when I expend my energy to go,
no,
to
Safeway.
Yeah.
I mean, they're two different definitions, but
right.
I guess, yeah. So, but they ironically like kind of lead to the same conclusion, is what I guess. But what's it called? So like, you're getting celery, I'm getting celery. There's only one brick of celery left. So the competition is like, I call it statistical competition because we're both like trying to manifest this, like trying to obtain some celery, so we can eat celery. And it's like, who's gonna get it first? You want it really bad, and I want it really bad, but only one of us are gonna get it. So,
right. And if both of you have told yourself that you're manifesting that you will succeed in gaining the celery, then it's like, well, of course, the person who wins it will be even more convinced in the powers of manifesting. Like, look, I manifested it. And what about the other person?
Like
I definitely think people are just reading too much into, I mean, this is something we're guilty of doing all the time, especially as it relates to these concepts. Like, thinking there's so much strength in coincidences, you know, and never really thinking about the actual likelihood of anything, you know.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
Yeah.
And like, you never know, like, I might really, really want celery, but I might actually like really want to get like some strawberries too. And I'm like thinking in my head, like, I gotta blend my celery with like some broccoli.
And if
So
you
like
lose
I
the
go,
competition with the other celery person, and then you go and get some strawberries, and then you're going to tell yourself, wow, it must have been fate. Actually, I wasn't meant to get the celery. I was meant to get the strawberries because that's what I did.
a lot of things, a lot of things. It's
There's
but
just like a lot of layers to this shit, bruh. You know? Like,
exactly.
damn, it's just like deep.
Sometimes we want to like make it easy for us. So that's why it becomes spiritual. It's like easier to follow and like kind of like less critical, like exposure to maybe things you don't want to be exposed to. That too. That's also something I think people do.
That's so facts. That's so facts. Well, thank you, brother. I'm going to see if
Uh-huh.
anyone else calls, but I hope that you have a blessed day, and I hope that you are able to win some celery at Safeway. I hope you
Yeah.
manifest it into existence.
Well, one last thing is that like you can also like change destiny by like not going to that Safeway. Instead, you go to like a local grocery store that doesn't tend to have that many customers in the first place.
Oh my God, it's like using magic to like
Uh-huh.
get your groceries.
Exactly.
Dude,
Exactly.
that's
I'm glad.
nuts.
Uh-huh. All
Thank you
right.
for sharing this esoteric wisdom with us.
Uh-huh. Of course, it has to get out there. All right. Later.
Facts. You be blessed.
Bless. Stay blessed.
It's so funny. Yeah, I mean, like, what does this shit all boil down to? Manifesting? I had no idea. I think it was the caller Lila who said that this apparently is blowing up on social media. God, I can't say I'm sad to be missing it. Long before I had stopped tweeting, I muted all of the astrology symbols. This shit makes me upset. I don't know how you guys feel, but it genuinely upsets me. Here we go. Let's talk about it.
Call from
Debbie Friday.
Debbie
to accept, press 1. To
Friday!
send
It's Debbie Friday!
Hello.
Hello! How are you,
How are-
Debbie?
I'm doing good. I'm just at home in the middle of some work, and I was on Twitter, and I saw that you're doing a Phenomenology club about manifesting.
Manifesting.
So I was like, this is my shit.
Let's manifest some shit together. Let's go.
Yeah.
You're manifesting at home. You're doing some shit.
I am.
You working on music?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm working on my little movie,
Woo!
editing it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm okay, just chilling, drinking coffee. I'm gonna get to work on some stuff after this too, but I thought first I would manifest a discussion about manifesting.
There we go. It's funny, like this is really I love this stuff, like everything esoteric and everything that has to do with the unexplainable and the occult and all of that. I'm really, really into it, and I do believe in it in the way that in the sense that like I live my life according to things that I've picked up along the way. Like I think my beliefs are just like a mishmash of a bunch of different stuff.
So like what?
And I heard
what are the things that you feel like you've internalized the most into your general worldview as it relates to this stuff?
I think one of the biggest concepts has been this idea that even this idea of like manifesting, that I have influence on reality, like that I have power to influence my reality and to shape my reality, whether through my thoughts or my actions or general energy, or this concept of energy, and this idea that I'm just not like this passenger and life is happening to me, but rather it's happening for me and because of me, I think has been the biggest thing that I've kept with me. And I know a lot of that, I don't know about other people, but for myself, I can definitely see how all this new agey stuff is really influenced by the Judeo-Christian ideals around like God and spirit and all of these things. Like I do feel this sense of what is magical is what we end up calling God, and what we end up calling like the universe and all of these unexplainable things, and it takes on this character of its own that's seen as outside of us a lot of times, but also within us in this way. And I do a lot of reading around this stuff. Like I read this book called Christ Consciousness, and it's all about how everyone has the ability to embody Christ consciousness, and it talks about like I think like these 13 layers of Christ, and
Holy
how you can go.
shit. I didn't know
Yeah,
Christ
it's like
went so deep. 13
oh
layers.
yeah,
Fuck.
oh yeah.
What's at the core?
At the core, I think it's like when you can embody all of them and live your life in alignment with all of these different layers, and you become just this like superhuman person in the same way that Christ was.
Shit.
Yeah.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think you just said a lot of really interesting stuff. Like, what you were just describing before you were talking about, you know, the difference between, like, what you may believe and, like, these New Age people that are so heavily influenced by, like, Judeo-Christian influences and shit. I feel like a lot of what you were describing are ideas that I understand why they've come to be understood as mystical, but I feel like they're kind of practical and philosophical even, you know? Like, this idea that we're going to conceptualize ourselves as active participants in our reality rather than passive observers that experience things. We're also agents with our own autonomy that influence things around us, you know? Like, this is a philosophical worldview, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of utility in conceptualizing the world this way, of yourself as an active participant with the ability to change and transform what's around you, you know? But I definitely am frustrated, and I don't know how you feel, with a lot of these people who shroud all these concepts in mystery and in mysticism. And to me, it feels, like you said, it does feel very influenced by like Judeo-Christianity, and also just like these general attitudes of like asceticism and self-hatred, because I feel like one of the things that really draws people to the occult in general and spirituality and mysticism is this idea that they can't know everything, you know? It's this idea that there are things that I can know and there are things that I can't know, and I'm going to like put my faith in the things that I can't know. It almost seems like an absolvement of accountability and agency, and it's ironic that we're talking about things like having personal agency and influence and the ability to transform your surroundings, when I feel like a lot of people gravitate to this kind of thinking because they kind of want to like lay down and fucking die. They're lazy. They don't want to do the fucking work. It feels good to be like, I can't understand everything. Like, just as Christians are always like, his ways are mysterious, like we will never know like everything. These same people say the same kind of things about all these various schools of mysticism, you know, like some things can't be understood, some things can't be explained and stuff. It's like, well, then fucking find a way to explain it. Like, what if you can't explain it, then invent something to explain it, you know? I don't like that shit. I don't like ever being told you can't do this, you can't understand this. To me, I become immediately skeptical. Like, watch me.
Yeah,
So.
like I think that I do believe though that there are some things that can't be explained, but I don't believe in this kind of passive acceptance of them. I feel like that it just doesn't, I think anything that we can conceive of, then we can understand. You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe I honestly just feel like it's a matter of time, right? It wasn't that long ago that we thought, oh yeah, like the earth is flat, and then people changed their opinion and they're like, okay, now the earth is round, and who knows, like in the next 100 or something years, it's going to become a different knowledge it's going to become a different fact and a different thing. Like, I don't believe anything is ever like just static and stable. And I think it's just a matter of time, really. And then there's going to be new questions and new answers. Like, I feel like the universe is really just this really chaotic realm where everything, the only constant that I know of for a fact is change. That's it. That's what I know, is that everything is always and forever changing. And so maybe that contributes to this idea of not knowing. But I agree with you. Like, I don't like this idea of like, oh, just go with the flow and just kind of like, you know, it's out of our hands and this and that. I feel that one of the things that's lacking right now in a lot of the ways that people go about interacting with each other and interacting with the world, like from their individual perspectives, is this lack of accountability and responsibility. And you can't have accountability and responsibility if you feel like you have no power over things, or if you feel like it's out of your hands.
Absolutely. And what you just said is really poignant, that this idea that like maybe a lot of what we're trying and failing at describing right now are things that simply there's not yet a language for or a good explanation
Yeah.
for. And I almost feel like people we're at the precipice of something where when it relates to some of these specific concepts, I feel like people are trying so hard to keep it in the mystical, and keep this separation of like there's matters of the spirit and there's matters of science. Like, no, science is just a descriptive language. If ghosts exist, then science will be able to describe them, If consciousness is some force that can actually alter physical mass or whatever the fuck you're on about, then science will be able to describe it with this language. If it's true, it's a descriptive language. That's it. It doesn't fucking explain away anything. It simply creates a language where there is none. So I feel like people are almost like scared. Like, please don't take it away from me. This is all I have. My fucking no one understands except for me because I like do star charts at night. Like,
well, it's also a way that people cling to things, right? To identify to and to create an identity out of, and if you deconstruct that, or if you force them to have to rethink it or think about it in a different way, it causes an identity crisis, like a crisis of their very core being. And I think that's where that fear comes from.
Yeah, especially as it relates to this.
You.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any experiences with, like, any supernatural forces, anything in your life?
Yeah, I've had multiple actually, and I talked about this in the Against Spirituality upload, but like I'm somebody who comes from fundamentalist Christian background. Like I was in a Pentecostal church. Oh, really?
Same, yeah.
Yes.
We went to revivals and everything.
That's why we're fucking intense and crazy.
That's it,
Yes. So like that's when I've had my first experiences, which I'm sure you can relate to, speaking in tongues. I never actually spoke in tongues. I would just pretend. Because I didn't know.
Just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I was like, Jehovah, Adonai, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't fucking know. I was just trying. And everyone else sounded terrible, too. Like, some people are really good at doing some fake bullshit.
Some people they could get into it, and they could really, do the whole dance and everything. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
I was never confident enough in my abilities to speak in tongues, so I didn't go ham with it. But I would do a little la la la, But once I went to this like traveling speaker at some local youth group, and he was slaying people in the spirit. And this was when I was already like starting to doubt Christianity. Like I was incredibly skeptical that it would work on me. But he was going around the room touching people, and they were like flying, kind of like that video of that pastor like shooting people across the room, like Dragon Ball Z shit. And he got to me, and I got knocked over. It felt like someone punched me, like an invisible person.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what the fuck? But that's when I was already starting to get into like interested in the occult and shit. And in my mind, I was like, okay, so telekinesis is real. I was like, okay, so everybody focused on me getting slain. They believed it would happen. And kind of like we were talking about with the other caller, I thought it was some sort of mass hallucination placebo thing. Then I got even more interested in the occult because of that experience. And I got really into like Eliphas Levi and like Aleister Crowley and, other like white girl teenager like bullshit. And I had this one experience where I was totally sober. I was looking in the mirror and I thought I was seeing all of my past lives. Like my face was literally transforming into these scary, they look like Russian peasant women but kind of demonic. My face was just transforming, like, and there must have been 100 of them, just different people, and they all looked like some old peasants, like medieval shit. And I thought that I was like seeing my past lives, and I was completely sober. This is when I was still in high school. Like I was just high off fucking life and the spirit and believing this shit, And as time went on, like I remember these experiences and I feel like they were real. Whatever experience I really feel like I did. But what I no longer believe is that my immediate translation of this thing is correct. I believe that I entered into some sort of mind state where I experienced this genuinely. But I don't believe that I saw my past lives. I don't believe that the Holy Spirit punched me. I don't even necessarily believe that I experienced some sort of mass telekinetic event, you know? But I do
So what do you believe?
I believe that, first of all, the common denominator between all these experiences is only myself, right? There's no, what are the chances that, like, God, Jesus, the Abrahamic God is magic, and so is Aleister Crowley, and so is this, so is that. Like, I can identify myself as the common denominator in all these experiences. So what I do believe is that I am capable of entering into some sort of an altered state or experiencing something, you know? That's really all I believe at present. I don't know what I make of these experiences, but I think that the mind is a very powerful thing, and this is what I believe. And I'm not even saying I necessarily just like hallucinated this, and this was just the workings of a wild imagination. But you know, all of this definitely like underlies my interest in phenomenology, especially because like Husserl was really interested in these kinds of ideas too. He believed that you could change the color of an object in your mind's eye, and I've experienced that once as well, but it was completely on accident, which I think is really strange. But like I'm totally interested in like the sci-fi aspects, like I have a boner for like the mystical and the unexplained and the psychic and all this shit as well too. But that's part of why I'm really cautious with myself and super critical of myself and make sure I try to stay grounded, you know. Whatever I experience, I'm immediately skeptical of it, because it's not that I don't believe I haven't experienced these things. I just believe that I need to be hypercritical of my own interpretation. Like, what are the chances that what I experience is exactly what it presents as immediately, you know? I think that's the thing that we need to be double thinking. Like, because people always experience things and they're like, okay, so ghosts are real. Okay, so angels are real. Okay, so this is real. It's like, well, why? Your experience was real, but why do you think that you possess the knowledge to immediately be like, okay, and I figured it out? Especially with these kinds of things, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like kind of like taking time to digest what happened, and to actually, I think the time also lets you get a wider interpretation of it and kind of look at it from different angles, because immediately your brain is going to jump to whatever you have, the knowledge you have accessible, and you've already been programmed with this idea of like ghosts and these types of things. Like, this is knowledge that you already know, and so you're going to be like, oh well, I know this, and this seems really similar to this, so these two are the same now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing I wish people would second guess more. Your own interpretation, not your own experience. Like, obviously, if you experience something, you experienced it, but we need to all be second guessing our own interpretations of our experiences. And this is why we need phenomenology, because that's what it's all about, you know? Analyzing our own first person experiences. So we're trying to get scientific, nerdy about our own consciousness. I honestly feel like a lot of what I'm interested in is like analogous to what a lot of spiritualists are into, but I'm just doing it from a totally different perspective.
Yeah, different language.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this thought-provoking discussion.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hell yeah.
I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'm going
You
to try and
too.
tune into
Good
the
luck
rest of it.
manifesting your music.
Can't
wait to listen to it. And be well. Blessings.
You too. Bye.
Bye. That was a great comment from Debbie Friday. Go check out her music and her videos. Can't wait to see what's next. Shit, that was really good. I just got riled up. I just got excited. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Yeah, dude, like, everything I just said, I feel like what was I even talking about? I'm so riled up. To speak of phenomenology, you know, oh, here we go. I'll just do concluding thoughts at the end. We'll just take a few more calls, and then I'll conclude.
Call from
Christopher Marquez.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Christopher. What's up?
Hey, what's up? Oh, thank you. And so I missed like the last part of that conversation. What are I've a long time listener. I don't know what we're talking about today. I was listening to that last phone call. Wasn't sure if there was someone ahead of me.
We're
but I'm
talking
very
about
presently.
We're talking about manifesting and spirituality and phenomenology and astrology and religion and whatever the fuck else. Basically just spooky shit, psychic phenomena, DMT elves, anything relating to this. What are your thoughts?
Um, well, I think my first thought was actually way back. I remember you had a video talking about like if Jesus wasn't real or not, and talking about like the political situation at the time. And it just made me think about, like what the role of Christianity is in our culture today, because now our political realm is really weird, and all of a sudden we're seeing in the news shit like fucking oh, we're gonna get forced to take the vaccine. Bill Gates wants to put a chip in us and wants to give us the mark of the beast and shit.
Right.
So I don't know. I was thinking about all that and manifesting. Maybe we can manifest all of that away.
Yeah, that's crazy because Christians, like I was just saying to Debbie, like I was raised in a Christian household. I don't know about you, and they have been on about this fucking microchip that's gonna come for years and years. It's like as soon as microchips were invented, they were like, that's gonna be it, that's gonna be the mark of the beast. I think it's partially because in the Left Behind film starring Kirk Cameron, I believe that this happens. The mark of the beast is like a tattoo accompanied by a microchip. So ever since this idea was introduced to Christians, they've become obsessed with the idea that the mark of the beast is going to be a microchip. So whenever talks of microchips come up, they're like, it's coming, it's finally coming. They just can't fucking wait. And to speak of the end of the world shit, I feel like this is like a troubling phenomena. I feel like even non-Christians now, even the people who like pit themselves as being the enemy of the Christians, they're all obsessed with the end of the fucking world too. It's like everybody wants to feel like the world will end when we do, like no one's gonna come after me. I'm the fucking end. Like it hurts people to feel like the world will continue far into the future, It's very fucked up. But that's really interesting what you just said about Jesus. Like, I don't really think about that. Do you feel as if people are like gravitating to more spiritual or religious beliefs in the midst of all of our political fuckery going on right now?
Well, I've heard you say this or express this thought before that whenever Christianity is challenged, it leaves like this void. And atheism doesn't really fill that void. It's just the absence of Christianity. And so people start turning to this new age bullshit like astrology and other things because it's like a similar way of knowing. So I don't think that more and more people are becoming Christian, but I'd say is still like that movement for spirituality is getting stronger because I know for sure like everyone in the church is like really like freaking out, like, what, we can't gather, this is the beginning of the end. And even I know even Hindus, some people that I know, they have this like concept among many Indians where they're freaking out about it. And with the whole Kali Yuga, which is like the end cycle in Hinduism, there's this concept that there's going to be so much information out there that you won't even be able to tell what's real and what's fake, what's true and what's false. So they think that, it's with this COVID bullshit, everything, it's all coming to that now. So I think it's riling us all up.
Wow.
Our amygdalas are just firing hard as fuck.
We're like, what the fuck is going on? That's interesting. Wait, you're saying that this idea that all information it will be like impossible to parse through what's real and what's fake, this is a religious belief associated with Hinduism?
Indeed it is.
Wow. And what is this called?
Yes. It's part of the Kali Yuga, which is part of a yuga is a cycle in Hinduism. I think there are 4 yugas, and in each yuga, humanity is in a different state. I think the first yuga, humanity is like very primal, and then the second one, it's something like mankind is very spiritual and very big, and people live for very long. And then the third one is supposed to be like the Stone Age, and then the fourth one is like something like how we are now. I believe that's how it is roughly, but I know that there's 4, and the one we're currently in is like 400,000 years or something like that. But there's only like 20,000 years left, they say.
Wow, I've never heard that. I'm definitely gonna look that up. What a prediction.
Hmm.
Damn, I want to be the guy
Indeed.
who predicted that, cause they were on some shit. That's
Yeah.
true. We are
Oh,
definitely in
yeah.
an era of disinformation, and it seems like it's just gonna get worse and worse, especially with like deep fakes getting more and more realistic. You know, they're already at the point of being like realistic enough. I've seen the worst photoshops trick idiots. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
I've
Oh,
seen.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, yeah, even like Kim Jong Un recently, I saw some like Korean blogger talking about how like, oh yeah, they're just using photo technology to say that Kim Jong Un is still alive.
Dude,
So
I
it's like,
literally just
what?
Googled to see if he was still alive, because where the fuck has
Oh
he
my
been?
God,
There was all these news articles like, he's dead, and then everything disappeared, and I haven't heard a peep from the guy.
bro, fuck if I know. People saying he has a body double. A lot of Koreans, I think that he died, but now it's just doubtful. No one knows what the fuck is going on.
Just give it to his fucking sister. She's ready to go. Let's go.
Oh yeah, she's fucking ready.
Yeah, I thought she was the next one. Let's just go. Go with her. Shit. It's time for a female dictator. Okay?
Yeah.
And
It really,
she's
it's like
cute.
that, there's an Onion article about that.
Really?
Yeah. A
More
big
female
step for
drone
feminism.
operators. Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
Hey, I mean, people make fun of that mindset, but I understand, you know. There female
Hmm.
dictators, like that does make me feel a little empowered, I gotta say. Women killing,
Right?
shit, women we're murder machines too. Let's go. If that's what she wants
Uh,
to be, that's what she wants to be. Okay?
I,
That's it.
I
Damn.
love that for her.
Right? Me
She's
too.
sickening.
Give it to her. He's dead. Let's go. And she's so
Queen
cute.
of mass
She's like hot.
starvation.
She should wear like a fucking crazy fascist looking outfit. Like,
Oh my god.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go.
Hmm.
Shit. Thanks for reminding me. Now I'm hyped. Yeah,
Nice.
shit's crazy. I'm gonna look up this thing about Hinduism. I've never heard that, but we definitely seem to be in a disinformation age, and it makes it scarier because all of these spiritualist people are, in my opinion, making it worse. You know, it's like people just don't even have any sort of criteria for how they're gonna parse through information anymore. It's just like, if it feels good to me, it's what I know I'm going to integrate into my lexicon of thinking. Like, we have
Hmm.
no standard for any thinking at all, and then at the same time, like, you're gonna turn around and be like, look at all this disinformation and fake reporting out here and shit. Like, we really just don't have no standards of thinking at all. It's really scary.
Well, I think it goes back to how you were saying earlier on the other call about what was it? How oh fuck, I'm drawing a blank. Fuck me, fuck.
Fuck!
Oh yeah, oh yeah, about how like like it's like if you can't explain it, then it's like why can't you explain it? Find a way to explain it, you know? Or
Right.
it's like how people say, oh, it's just spiritual. Like you need to like I just can't know it, you know? I can't just explain it. It's something you have to feel, you know? Like I think that to an extent there is truth because perception and I would say I don't know if there is a spirit. I don't know if I would say that. But I would definitely say that perception and consciousness, at least, are things that you experience apart from language and apart from things. And you know, they know that memory and perception are separate from language. And so I do think that you can have complex thoughts without language. And this is one of the, I'd say this is an axiom for that point that a lot of spiritualists may or may not base their belief off of, but I believe it's a defense for it. In that, you know, if you say that I can express or hold a very complex thought without being able to use language, then therefore it's like I don't need to explain it. It's spiritual. This is just a perceptual thing. This is something that is deeper than language, you
Right.
know?
Right.
But then it's like that's explaining it. So then it just kind of is like,
Yeah. Did you just cut off? Are you still there?
oh yeah, I'm still
Oh,
here.
okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the problem has to do partially with like how much we've allowed this kind of language and explanatory thinking into like public discourse and how we do things, you know? Because it's like, I'm not going to sit here and argue with someone who's like, I just can't explain it, bro. Like, that's fine. Do you, you know? But when you're trying to impose these kinds of ideas on me by like putting them in the real world and public discourse and having them influence actual changes in the world around me, like, then we're going to have a fucking problem, you know? Like, it kind of blows my mind that people are so critical of like, look at what the church has done to people, turned them into morons, made them go down all of these terrible trajectories, bad thinking, bad education, all this, and then they turn around and they're doing the same exact thing, you know? But because it's some like Eastern religion, I found, like, whatever, it's non-Western, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like this fetishization of other cultures too, in an effort to be like anti-racist and shit too. Like, there's so much going on. I feel like people are just so, I don't even, it's just like, it's culturally, I'm worried, you know, that we're accepting this new standard being created where people are just like comfortable to live their lives based on criteria they can't even articulate.
Uh-huh. And you know, I completely see your point. And it's always going to be evolving culture and religion. And even in the most fucked up ways, weirdly, this reminds me of the Church de la Santa Muerte in Mexico. And it's a very recent thing. I don't know if you know about it. For those who
No.
don't know, it's just a,
Say the name one more
it's
time.
La Santa Muerte.
Okay. Gonna look it up.
A Santa Muerte.
Death? Is
So
that
like,
death?
yeah,
Oh
the
my
saint of death.
god! Love it
Yeah, and
already.
they call her La Flaca, which means like the skinny girl, the skinny she, whatever the fuck. Anyway,
Skinny
so
legend.
it's true. It evolves from the practice of worshiping saints. And what they've done is basically, because of all the death and drugs and destruction in Mexico, they've adapted their saint worship to create this saint of death where they offer her like weed and booze and all this. I live right next to Juarez, and they have a church to her. People regularly go there to pray for protection against drug lords and to pray for revenge. And it's new. It like came up like, I think around the 90s or more recently, and people really believe that like this like saint of death is protecting them, and it's like somehow also in line with like Jesus and the Catholic Church and like all the other saints and stuff. And
Wow.
it's like that's an example of how cultures evolved so rapidly and quickly to adapt to the changing environment. But that's in Mexico. So I do feel like something strange, like maybe not like that exactly, but that same schema could occur in American culture. And you see how like with Antifa and all these other things, Black Lives Matter, maybe something like that is similar or could form something new.
Oh my god, I don't want the marriage of political activism and spiritualism. Like, that would be crazy. No, but that sounds
Uh,
crazy what you were just saying. I'm definitely gonna look that up. Like, that makes me think. I've always thought about how peculiar is it. You know, this is one of the arguments I have for why I feel like morality is based in natural phenomena, what we call morality anyway. Things like being empathetic to other people, things like naturally not desiring to kill other people unless there's some sort of a reason. Because there's like built-in evolutionary mechanisms for why you don't want to kill other people, at least of your own species and
mhm,
shit. And this is why you don't
mhm,
see a lot of religions around the world. Like that religion in India, it's like a very small group of people who are like cannibals or something. Like, this is incredibly rare. You don't often find like a group of people who like venerate death, venerate murder, or venerate vengeance or something. And it sounds like even what you're describing is not necessarily some like twisted thing. It more so sounds like people who are scared and want protection, don't want to die, so are kind of like, you know, making an icon out of like this saint of death and like this. But you know, that
mhm.
sounds really metal and awesome shit, but
It
also
is.
sad, you know, because that makes me sad that people are you know, this threat of death is so immediate that you have to not have to, but you gravitate to this sort of thinking and fear and religion. And I think that it is comforting too to many people. Like, I'm definitely skeptical of this idea that people like need religion to be comforted, and especially in America where I see a lot of people, I feel like, gravitate to it for the reasons I said, that they want to be stupid and want to have no accountability. At the same time, to hear about people who become really religious in like violent environments and shit like this, like, it makes me sympathetic and more empathetic to like this kind of a thing, and to think of the history of the world too, like medieval times when people were super, super religious in Europe, and also just dying from disease, and just violence was everywhere. It was like Hellraiser in the town square every fucking day, seeing your neighbors get fucking flayed open and chopped into 1,000 bits. Can you fucking imagine? It's like
brutal.
Yeah, like literally a horror movie every day you wake up, Like, we accept in 2020 that even people who live in neighborhoods with like gun violence have PTSD, like extreme PTSD. Can you imagine waking up and seeing people's heads on fucking stakes and like babies like thrown on the street? Like, they must have all been fucking batshit, No wonder.
Indeed.
A lot of these people. Yeah.
This reminds me to say, like, we can't fall into the trap of moral relativism here, because I do think we do find it an objective truth over time that we have to get rid of these medieval ways, because now it's like, bruh, like, what the fuck was that? But, even prior to that, something even more brutal might have been like, oh, whatever. And I don't think that it's evidence for moral relativism necessarily. I feel like this is more of like showing our adaptation, but there's something, it feels like there's some sort of goal. I wouldn't phrase it as a goal, because that implies like a certain teleology or a certain like destiny. But like, to tie it back to like spirituality, I think that there's some sort of apex for mankind to get to, and this could be an argument for spirituality, that we can see the way we look back on it, when we try to apply moral relativism, it really just doesn't work, because it's like, oh, that's their culture. They cut off babies' heads and throw them in the streets. Like, what?
Right. Well, I'm going to be incredibly pretentious for a second and challenge you, because I think a lot of people, when they say moral relativism, what they mean is moral subjectivism, which I think are incredibly different things. And I always try to make this distinction to people, because I personally am a moral relativist, in the sense that I believe all morality, all these disparate moralities from different people, whether these people chopping up babies, these people praying to Jesus, these people praying to the saints of death, I believe that they all exist in different positions, but still relative to the same, what you just called a goal, quote unquote. You didn't really call it that, because relativity assumes that it's relative to something. I think that all of these disparate moral viewpoints do exist relative to one thing, and the reason that they're so incredibly different from each other is because their proximate position from this goal, or this moral center of this universe that they're all beholden to and facing, their locations are so drastically different from the thing based on their specific context, So that's why you see all these different religions so different from each other, but still aspiring towards something similar, which I think is what you were just saying, which I'd absolutely agree with, and why we don't see a lot of like cannibal societies and societies that just venerate murder and being mean to your neighbor and being cruel and having no empathy, Like, I think that things like empathy, things like not wanting to murder within your own species, which is observable in all animal populations, like interspecies murder is so much more common than intraspecies murder for arguably physiological reasons. These are the kinds of things that I think all moralities have in common, and what we're really venerating when we create our various religions. So I don't think that calling it, I think that it is a moral relativist viewpoint, what I just said, even though I'm arguing kind of that there is something objective, quote unquote, that we're all referencing just from different relative positions. So it's not subjective, it's relative. Sorry to rant. What do you think about that?
I see that. I see what you're saying, but it would be relative to, are you saying like relative to the environment, biology, and behavior and whatnot?
Well, I would say relative to the I would say that they all have the same moral center in common. They all point towards the same thing, and they exist in different relative positions to it, which is the thing that causes all of these differences.
Okay.
Because I think when people
Like,
use the word relative, they mean relative to yourself, you know? But like I'm
mm,
speaking about it as if it's all relative to a goal. And it sounds so arbitrary and pretentious, but the reason I think it's important is because we already have this word subjective, which I think is what people are alluding to when they say moral relativity. I think that when you are a moral subjectivist, then you believe that every different culture just comes up with their own different morality and they're all valid or they're all invalid or whatever, and they have nothing to do with each other, you know? That's like a subjectivist stance. I feel like when you say, I feel like there's great utility to calling it moral relativism and using this idea that they are all exist relative to the same goal, they just exist in different proximate positions to it, which creates the difference, you know?
but what if we take an epistemological take to it, so to where we say that there is an objective way to come to knowledge, and we define knowledge as justified true belief, and then we can say that, moral relativism, we can't accept that because morality is knowledge. And so we have to use these objective tools to come to moral standards as justified true belief.
Well, I think the utility of staying cognizant of the fact that this is a relative set of conditions will have to do with the fact that, a lot of moral arguments are really not clear cut. Because even if I agree with you, which I pretty much do, that there is something you could call an objective goal of morality, and in that sense, any action could be said to be moral or immoral based on a set of strictly defined criteria, I still think that, especially since a lot of moralizing has to do with hypothesizing into future outcomes, there won't be a clear decision. To think of something like abortion, for example, right now, I think a lot of people will agree that abortion is justified because a lot of women don't want to be mothers. We know that being a mother is a thing a lot of women just genuinely don't want to be. It creates a lot of hardship on your life. It also is a risk to your very life. I think for all these reasons, we can kind of agree, okay, abortion is quote unquote moral. But then, let's say we're in some future society where, all sperm counts are declining, eggs are declining, the birth rate, we're gonna go extinct if bitches don't start popping out some fucking babies, and then we have women who are like, well, I don't want to have a baby, and it's well, then there would be so many different variables. We would exist in such a different relative position to our moral goal, even if it's objective, depending on what we say it is. Let's say that the moral good is that which promotes the livelihood of the general human populace. That's a pretty vague, acceptable, objective moral viewpoint, right? If that's true, then what would we say about this hypothetical scenario? Is it right if women say, I don't want to have a baby, even if it is a risk to my livelihood? I'm going to make the entire human race go extinct? There would be so many different configurations of this argument. It would be, I couldn't say right now what would be the moral good or not, So this is why I think it's still useful to conceptualize this as a relative set of variables, because the proximate position to this objective moral good, even if it is objective, the path to it will never be objectively clear.
Wow. I really feel like that gives it a much clearer definition. I remember I did take a class of epistemology, and I think that when they did refer to moral relativism, I think they were referring to moral subjectivism. Now that I really think deeply about it, and I really see your point now.
Hey,
How
I'm
interesting.
glad. Yeah, well, this is something, I like to bring it up precisely for this reason, because I do think that a lot of people say moral relativism to mean moral subjectivism, and a lot of people will tell you that the difference is arbitrary. And so I just like to bring it up because I feel like it's important to think about why it's not arbitrary, and I feel like it's useful to think about morality as a relative thing, relative to an objective quote-unquote goal. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like I've taken up a lot of the time in
No,
this.
that was so fun. Thank you. I could
But,
just talk
oh my God.
forever, but you're right. I should see if anyone else is here. But thanks so much for that. And
I
I'm
love
gonna look
that.
up
Oh
all
my
this
God.
shit. You just dropped some knowledge on me, so thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Well,
Hell
thank
yeah.
you. I also, can I just like drop that like I like listened to your music in high school and stuff, and that shit's fucking inspiring and cool as fuck. It's so
Oh,
fascinating.
thank
And
you.
yeah, like, I fucking love you. Like,
Oh,
fuck
thank
yeah.
you. I love you too. Shit.
Oh
I'll be
my
releasing more
God.
music. I know I've been singing for forever, but I always do what I say I'm gonna do, even if it takes me a while. So I hope that you stick around when it comes out and listen to it.
Nice. That's a bet. All
Hell
right.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Be blessed.
All right. Oh, go in peace,
Yeah.
sister.
Walk with the king.
Okay. Oh my God.
All
All
right.
right. Bye bye.
Bye. That was a great call. Sorry to nerd out. I think maybe I'll take like one or two more if anyone's still here, and then probably just get out because I've been here for an hour and 10 minutes. Why don't I take one more? Maybe if anyone's here, I don't know. I'll just leave it open and maybe start to summarize right now. I don't remember what I was going to say. Shit. Everything gets me so excited. Phenomenology, right? Phenomenology. Let's talk about that real quick. One thing I wanted to say before we go is that, actually, maybe I should just stop taking calls. That was a really good call. I'm going to wrap it up for today. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. Thank you so much, everybody, for calling. I think we should definitely do this again because this was so fun. But I got a lot of varying perspectives, and it's really heartening to hear that so many of you all are so intelligent and thinking about these kinds of things critically and coming at it from varied viewpoints, because like some of the callers seem to have asserted, I definitely think that there is a lot of intriguing concepts, ideas to be explored when it comes to all of these various topics, and people are interested in them for really good reasons. At the same time, I think it's important to be skeptical, not necessarily of what we're experiencing, like I said to Debbie Friday, but our immediate interpretation of what we're experiencing. And this is directly related to phenomenology. Like, this is a central idea that what we're analyzing is not our experience. And this is hard to articulate. It's really hard to put it into words that make sense to people, but I'm going to try over and over again until I get through to others and find better ways of speaking so that I can be as articulate as possible, because this idea is so important to me. What we want to do with phenomenology is not to understand our own experience so much as we want to analyze how we experience things, period. I don't think I'll ever be able to say definitively whether or not I experienced X or Y, especially as it relates to spiritual things. But what I want to be able to do is create the language to be able to speak about what I think about how I experience things, and how can this inform all of my various beliefs that are always at this constant interplay with each other. It sounds so complex, it sounds pretentious, it sounds inaccessible, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. We don't want to think about what we're experiencing so much as we want to think about how we're experiencing things. If we can know anything about how we experience anything, period, okay? When you experience something and you think, wow, if I see a ghost, and say, wow, ghosts are real, be critical of yourself. This is not what you should conclude. If you see a ghost, you should ask yourself, how did I just see a ghost? Why do I think I just saw a ghost? What is a ghost? What am I? What is seeing? What did I just experience? How did I experience it? Okay? You can't just jump from fucking point A to point B like that. You better be fucking sitting down and thinking critically. At least if thinking critically is important to you, which I hope that it is, and I assume it is, if you're listening to this fucking bullshit. Anyway, this was a great discussion. Thank you everyone so much for listening. Please give it a thumbs up. We'll definitely do this again. This was really fun. Maybe we'll do an actual prayer marathon. Because I love praying. I just love praying. We could speak in tongues. Maybe I could get Debbie Friday on the line. We could speak in tongues together. There's a lot going on. Anyway, thank you everyone so much. You're all the best. And oh wait, someone's trying to call. Hold on, is someone calling? If you were trying to call, you can try one more time, because I see that I missed it and I feel bad. Call again. Are you here? Should I call them? It's so weird. Call back. Fuck, now I feel so guilty. Who are you trying to call? Jay Freeburn says, I listen to manifestation affirmations on YouTube that say I am a genius for 8 hours while I sleep. You should try that. I'd rather listen to like math equations and see if any of those rub off on me, right? Or like different language videos or something. Shit. Alright, well, I guess I just missed this person's call. I'm sorry for that. But you know what? I've seen on other live streams that people do, when this happens, they do like people type the area code for the phone number that they're trying to call from, and like I'll see it in here and I'll make sure that I get it. We'll do that next time. Yeah, thank you everyone for calling, and we'll do this again. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, great, awesome. Blessed, be blessed, be blessed.